This are on the topic which Sujat, you tried with so much of passion. When I was told about this topic, I had only one thought which crossed my mind: whatever happened to career development and planning? And one sentence which came to my mind was, it died. And I want to touch upon why career development and planning is actually dying slowly. We pretend, those of us who are senior in professional pretend it will never die, because that is, I've covered that part. But before that, way back in the 60s, there was this book by Ayn Rand called The Nth, 125 odd pages. Excellent book. It was a cult book. If you have not read Ayn Rand, if you have not read Leon Ury's Exodus, you are not in with the time those days. Ayn Rand in a book only mentioned about, of course, satire on communism, that the Council of Big Brothers decided everything for the community. So when young men and women graduated from the House of Wisdom and they went to House of Career, they filed past this Council of Big Brothers, the wise men, and they decided, you become scientist, you become an artist, you go to clean the street. And the story is about a young man who was told to clean the street. All he wanted to be was scientist. And in his aspiration to become scientist, one day he discovered an old building with some copper wire and round globes of glass. And he tinkered with it against the rules of the community and discovered electricity, rediscovered rather. He was full of joy because he said, this will ease the burden of all my brothers and sisters in the commune. No more dark nights, no more candles, no more lamps. So he goes to the House of Wisdom and tells the council, why I'm giving this story? This is all about management development, analogy. That I have discovered something which will benefit everybody, and I want to do that. I'm a good street cleaner, yet I want to do this. And he was told, your job is to be a street cleaner. There are others who think. So go back. This is exactly analogy in corporate life. A bunch of senior people decide that this is the career path we'll give to this young man and this young lady, and that's the path they will take. Nothing wrong. I have a lot of respect. I worked in an organization like Unilever where this was well thought through process, highly respected, and I have a lot of respect for the organization, and IBM, Motorola, and Shell. But the crux of the approach here was that it was almost turned into an art from science. People fine-tuned it to the point that the senior-most management staff would be expected to devote a lot of time. The famous retreat where the whole board would go for 3 days and look at the top 10% of their population. Good job. I'm not running it down, please don't misunderstand. But the essence, the purpose of that meeting was who will go where in what time. It succeeded. When the Bangas of this world were identified as potential chairman, amongst the potential chairmen, 14 years or 16 years before they even went to the 1 rung, 2 rungs below chairman. It worked. It worked beautifully. It was objective, based on data, based on evidence, and it worked. I remember being head of management development when we merged with Brook Bond, Levers, Brook Bond, and Lipton merged. And in Bangalore, the conference room, we called it a war room. The whole side of the room was white boards, and actually we had postage slips with details of the individual, colored postage slips, details of the individual, and actually with debate throughout the 3 days, a postage slip would come out from here and say, no, let's put her there. And take out a slip from here and say, this person should go there. Very scientific. But based on the assumption that that team of people who are deciding know what is to be done for the individual. Assumption. It worked for the corporation. because it gave them the talent that the corporation needed, the organization needed, at the time and at the place where it was needed. It ensured what Adil was talking about, continuity. It ensured, what is the word used? That punctuated? Equilibrium. Not that I've understood, but it's like, sounds good.
You will never bear the punishment of listening to me.
Oh no. Then came this whole ritual, it still goes on, of the appraisal side. Let me ask some of the young people, just visualize what happens in an appraisal interview. It's almost like going back to school days, or going to the headmaster room to collect your annual report. You keep your fingers crossed, for that's the only day you said your prayers in the morning, and you are literally nervous, right? And when you go in, you do not know what you are heading in for. And when you come out, if it's good, if it's bad, I knew it. Does it help anybody? And then along with the appraisal cycle comes a little add-on that your next move could be this. But that's not what I want. Is that talks going on? But it's been decided. The wise men and women have decided, so be it. And what happens inside that heart and mind and soul of the young talent? What happens? A sense of disenchantment, sense of loss of purpose. This is not what I want. Now sometimes it may be good. Sometimes people don't know what they want. And it's the wisdom of the organization's collective wisdom that sometimes is good to rely upon. I'm not running it down. But in the bargain, we lose out what is the inner drive and aspiration that motivates people. Times are changing now. We talk of Gen Y and the young generation of empowerment. They want empowerment, they want choices, they want to be in charge. And I'll give a couple of examples, please take it in the spirit I'm giving, not to say anything about myself or the example, but to highlight how we learn. Look at the choice that younger generation wants and how they manifest itself. Our 21-year-old daughter visiting us from Australia and on a long holiday walks into my study one night. So what are you doing, Babsi? Making a presentation. On what? So I said, no, I was in IBM heading 52,800 employee organization. Oh, we are introducing a new career development plan and I'm going to now take it forward to communicate. A typical reaction of a Gen Y, how boring. They said, no, it's not boring. Do you think people listen? I said, yes, if the content is good, people listen. No, they listen because it's a captive audience. You are an executive director, HR, they have to listen to you. So I said, no, it's not always like that. Sometimes it's the form, sometimes it's the content, people listen if it's good. She said, well, I don't agree with it, but have a good time, and she goes off. Now suddenly what triggers in my mind, I said, young lady, if you're so smart, tell me how would you do it? And she uses a word. The word is choice. She tells me, and this is the lesson we learn from youngsters, that you are interested in wildlife, and I have loaded quite a few podcasts for you. What do? You watch what you want to watch. You stop when you want to watch, don't want to watch. And you repeat what you like to watch. In your presentation, there's no choice. I said, yeah, but every time you can't have choice in life, sometimes you convey something which is non-choice. I said, yes, but have you thought that people are listening one choice? Because that generation doesn't want to be dictated upon. Exactly the congruence of two generations talking. Now, do you think I have moved to work after that? I closed my book and computer. Next day I went to my communication people. I said, what is this podcast? How is it done? She said, nothing. You just speak into mic. We convert it into somewhat WM4, WM4 file or something. And you put a URL and I was leaving for US that day. So the general manager and I decided that we'll go live for 20 minutes explaining this new process. At one stage, this lady from communication asked me that if everything is so hunky-dory, how come we still have attrition in IBM? And I was an HR director, I was taken aback. So I hummed and hawed. He said, well, by the time I could get my thoughts together, there was this humming and hawing. No time to edit as I was leaving, and I said, put it on and go. Guess what? In 3 weeks' time, then URL had something to the tune of 55,000 hits worldwide. Why? We got mails from Brazil and Philippines asking for more details on the process. But the part that really hit them was that the HR director falling on his shoelaces at a time when the interview was the sign of authentic. What is the learning that is coming out? That if you are listening to the choices of people, listening to the situation which we are dealing with now, you do things which you never thought was possible. Had I shut it off to say with my years or 40 years of experience, it's okay, I've heard you, you carry on with your thinking, I do mine. But that is not what really helps the situation. So I have unlearned, not learned, I have now unlearned. In Shell, we introduced something called open resourcing. Any position above a certain level were put out worldwide. And anyone who had been in the job for 18 months could apply for that position. We thought it would be misused. People will go to Seychelles and look for sexy locations and not really go where the work is needed. How many of them would volunteer to go to Nigeria? We were brutally surprised that people wanted challenging assignments, and given a choice, they chose on their own things we would not have been able to convince them. The whole idea is, let the younger talent decide. Let them make a choice based on their own aspiration. Why younger talent? Vinod sitting here reminds me of an example. His co-founder in his company, Bridge Chandiramani. And I have a lot of respect for Bridge because Bridge and I worked together in Motorola. He was my training head and he was my alter ego. Whatever I was not, Bridge was. He was calm, collected, patient, very polite, and we made a good team. I had, part of my whole management development exercise, put Bridge as my successor for South Asia operation. Very wise, I thought. I had the approval from my management chain of command, and I thought this would be the best thing that anybody would hear. I sit with Bridge Chandiramani on a discussion at the end of the year on career movement, and I tell him that we have great plans for you. Thinking that, now work on how to make the plan happen. What was missing here? Choice. It was a diktat. Why is diktat? Appropriate diktat, yet a diktat. And guess what was Bridge's reaction? And that's why I have more respect for him. He said, but that's not the job I want. This is the biggest job going in this part of the world. But that's not what I'm aspiring for. I want to be in the learning field. And I don't want to take on responsibility for 15 or countries and do this HR job that you enjoy, traveling 22 days in a month, burn midnight oil, don't get sleep. I'm not shying away, but that's not what I want. 6 months later, Bridge resigned. Not because of this. He had his own aspiration to start his own business. Exactly, if you remember, you and he started that. What is it? I was not listening. I was not bothered to listen. That's what is happening to career development and planning. Managers and directors and senior managers are planning everything without paying attention to what is wanted. I had one colleague in my Shell team in Malaysia, and we wanted to take on some compensation role in HR. And in his interview, sorry, not interview, but his appraisal discussion, twice in a row he mentioned that he wants to go to sales. I completely missed the cue. I was so full of myself, having got this template, where he will go next. I had not even listened. Not even listened 2 years in a row about his own aspiration to move to sales. Till I got a call from the director of Petronas, our rival in Malaysia. And she and I were friends outside company rivalry. And she said, I won't take on somebody belonging to your team unless I talk to you. This man has applied for a sales job in Petronas and he's done well. Why do you want to lose him? And I said, sales job? But he's an HR guy. We have good plans for him. I was not listening. When I say I was not listening, we in senior management and in middle management are not listening to people, what they want. And that's why we feel that our plans are working fantastically, but the plans are bushfiring. It is not meeting the aspirations. But of course, to do all this, you've got to have a process which works. For example, goal setting. In a process where choices are to be given, goals have to be really agreed. Milestones, what will you achieve by when? It cannot be just laissez-faire that you do whatever you want in life and company will sort of, this is not a country club. It's an organization with a purpose. With organization, having people with purpose to achieve something definite. And that's why the need of the organization cannot be sacrificed or even compromised. Raghu was mentioning about welcoming chaos. I think when you start turning around the whole thing to say we will not decide now ourselves alone, but we'll let others decide and make them co-partners deciding why they want to go in their career and see how much fit we can do, then it becomes more meaningful for the organization. But what is required here is a meaningful discussion between the manager and the employees on a continual basis. One last example, we do always exit interviews, and I feel this is the last thing that serves any purpose. We exit and don't give the reason why people leave. We did an experiment of 800 people of a certain profile who had left the organization. And we took exactly 800 people of the same profile who had not left the organization. We did what is called a retention interview. 34.6% of the people had said they leave IBM because they can't see any growth prospect. IBM, world's largest IT company, 164 countries, and you leave, there's no growth prospect. We went to the 800 people who was pilot group, and they said, we stay here because of growth prospect. Exactly the same profile. What was the common factor that was being finding out? What is happening? And the only reason, the managers of these 800 people were talking constantly and continuously to the people. Same company, same offering, same people, same background, same circumstances. You lose 800 people because managers are too worried about the projects, about delivery, about bottom line, and not worried about the people there. Career development, etc. has got to become, managers have to become coach. They've got to not manage people, but they've got to coach them. And that is why it's a two-way traffic. Employees also have to become responsible. If they want so much freedom, they have to show responsibility. Bottom line is that managers, especially senior ones, have to let go. Let go of this freak that we can control destiny of people. And employees, however young they are, have to have only one word in the dictionary: take charge, including charge of their own career. Thank you very much.